You ever have those days, or maybe even weeks, where you feel like you're constantly busy, just running around but not really getting anywhere important? Well, today we're going to dig into a simple story that might just change your perspective on everything. It's called The Jar of Life, and it holds a seriously powerful lesson about what truly matters.
So let me ask you this. If your life were just an empty jar, how would you fill it up? It's a question that really makes you pause and think, right? This simple image of a jar is the key to a classic story that just brilliantly breaks down how we spend our most valuable resources, our time and our energy.
All right, picture this. The story kicks off in a classroom. A professor walks in, stands in front of his students, and places this big, empty glass jar on his desk. He doesn't say a word, just gives them this knowing look, and then his demonstration begins. He reaches down and pulls out a bunch of large rocks. We're talking big, fist-sized rocks. One by one, he carefully places them inside the jar until it is packed, packed, right to the very top. You couldn't fit a single one more in there.
Then he looks out at the class and asks a simple question. Is this jar full? And looking at it packed with these huge rocks, the students all pretty much agree. Yep, they say, it's full.
But the professor, he just kind of smiles. He reaches down again, and this time he pulls out a bag of small pebbles. He starts pouring them in, and with a little shake, they just cascade down, filling in all the little empty spaces between those big rocks. He looks at the students again. Is it full now? Okay, this time you can feel a little hesitation in the room. The students are starting to catch on. But still, most of them nod and say, yeah, okay, now it's really full.
Of course, you guessed it, he's not done yet. Next up is a bag of sand. He pours the sand into the jar, and those tiny little grains fill every single remaining nook and cranny between the rocks and the pebbles. It's amazing how much fits.
So, for the third time, he asks the question. By now, the class is wise to his game, but they look at the jar and think there's no way anything else can fit. So together, they answer with the very confident,
yes.
And this is the moment where this simple little classroom demo turns into a really profound lesson. The professor looks at his students and says, this jar represents your life.
So here's the breakdown, the big reveal. The big rocks, those are the truly essential things in your life. We're talking your family, your health, your passions, your relationships, the non-negotiables. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house, your car. And the sand? Well, that's all the small stuff, isn't it? The little distractions, the endless social media scrolling, all the trivial tasks that just seem to eat up our day.
And here's the crucial point. The professor explains that if you start by filling your jar with sand, you'll never, ever have room for the pebbles, or most importantly, for those big rocks.
This image just says it all, doesn't it? This whole idea applies directly to our lives. If we fill our days with all the small, insignificant stuff first, the sand, there will be absolutely zero room left for the things that actually give our lives meaning.
This really powerful idea is often called the big rocks principle, and it's just a simple, brilliant guide for building a life that feels truly meaningful and complete.
So the professor's core message is crystal clear. You have to put your big rocks in first. They are the absolute pillars of your life. They are the foundation of your happiness and fulfillment. Everything else, it has to fit in around them, not the other way around. But hold on. Just when the students think they've got it all figured out, the professor adds one final twist. He picks up a mug of water and starts pouring it into the jar. And somehow, impossibly, the water seeps through everything, filling every last gap until the jar is truly, completely full.
Of course, a student just has to ask, okay, so what does the water represent? The professor smiles. He explains that the water symbolizes those small, beautiful moments that make life rich. The shared laughs, the deep conversations, the simple joy of grabbing a coffee with a good friend.
This final part just adds such a beautiful layer to the whole lesson. It shows us that no matter how packed your life seems, no matter how full your schedule is with all your important priorities, there is always, always room for connection and joy.
Okay, so this story is amazing, right? But the real question is, how do we actually use this wisdom? How can we take this jar of life idea and apply it to build a more meaningful life for ourselves?
Well, the process is pretty straightforward, but it really does take some intention. It all starts with you figuring out what are your big rocks, what are your non-negotiables. Once you know what they are, you literally build your schedule around them. You make them the priority. Then the less critical things, the pebbles and the sand, they can fill in the gaps. And of course, never forget to leave space for the water.
Ultimately, this whole story teaches us that a full life isn't about just cramming as much stuff in as you possibly can. No, it's about filling it with the right things in the right order. It's about shifting from just being busy to being truly meaningful.
And that brings us to the most important question of all, the one that only you can answer. When you look at the jar of your own life, what is the very first big rock you are going to place inside it, starting today?